Hi, and welcome to the next episode of Belly to Belly. And we're here with great friend, Mathew Woodlee. How are you today?
Great. Bill, how are you doing?
It's great. And so our topic today is talking about partnership development for emerging and dual use technology companies, which is a mouthful in and of itself. But, obviously, partnerships are great, particularly as you look at commercializing for whether it's enterprise or for military sales. And so I guess, where are companies struggling as they look to build those partnerships?
Yeah, Bill, thanks for that question. The real challenge I think that we're finding with companies is really understanding how to develop those relationships. And you can imagine when you're talking about dual use or potential sensitive technology, U.S. companies or partnerships might be a little reluctant to talk to folks overseas, or there may be some concerns with the export control sides of things. And so really understanding kind of what are those sensitivities, what are the challenges, where are the industry players, and how you can kind of fit in with these kind of challenges is really important. But a lot of times folks don't understand that, sometimes you can't just dive into a conversation, or you need to kind of show that you have some sort of controls that would allow for sensitive materials and discussions to happen. So jumping right into the U.S. market, say for military sales, is not as easy as it sounds. Of course, it's really about finding those right channel partners, getting engaged in the industry sectors, and then understanding what are some of those regulatory environments that are involved with dual use and emergent technology here in the United States, because that is a topic that's always been around, but it's coming up more and more and more as we look more into our dual use defense sectors, and our government is investing more in these dual use technologies. This notion that commercial and U.S. military applications is the really way to develop things, not just for the U.S. government, but also for the commercial market space. And so there's a lot of encouragement in that, but that comes with a lot of issues that both U.S. companies and non-U.S. companies entering the U.S. market need to understand.
And so what I'm hearing is that it for a company coming into the market and wanting to develop those relationships, besides the compliance issues, they also have sort of the credibility barrier that maybe needs scaling. And so our networks, like whether it's NATO Diana or like SoftWorks or AFWorks or any of the sort of fairly new networks and ecosystems, are those helpful in developing those and building those bridges?
Yeah, that's a great question, Bill. Absolutely. That's really what's happening with when you look at AFWorks and SpaceWorks and NAVEX and the Defense Innovation Unit on-ramp hubs, which we just had one open up here in Minnesota, for example, and they're opening them more. There's a lot of these kind of windows, they call it, or the front door into the U.S. government, or into the, it could be defense related. It could also be national laboratory related. It could be National Institutes for Health. There could be all the other federal engagements. But really what's happening is they're trying to open those doors more, because it's difficult to deal with these kind of dual use issues, the compliance issues. And so there are people out there in networks that you mentioned that are there to help not the U.S. companies understand these issues, but there's actually programs out there where we're seeing small, medium-sized companies get matched through very specific channels from overseas. So some really good examples of some like European space activity going on and making connections here in the U.S. And those are done through channels with the individuals who are helping promote that are the ones that are, ensuring the compliance and understanding that that these things can't just be done in an open environment, that they have to be somewhat closed, but also kind of where is that fine line? It's kind of tough. You have to be able to talk to people to be able to do business, but at the same time, you have to understand how that sharing of that really detailed technical information might need to work down the line as you get down that route. So yeah, that's great. But that's a great question, because those ecosystems are growing here throughout the country. They're not only in DC and the metro area of DC as well. That's where a lot of that, and not to take away from my friends in the DMV, because there's opportunities galore there. But what we're finding is, rural areas, places like Albuquerque, New Mexico, or Grand Forks, North Dakota, here in Minnesota, which is not really known as a defense hub, for example, but we are known as an innovation hub. And so there's a lot of activity happening around this space to encourage that. And foreign companies can take advantage of that. If they're going to locate here in the U.S. or partner with companies here in the U.S., they too can take advantage of that. We are an economy that is inviting to foreign companies. And so that also includes government opportunities with key partners here in the U.S. So just doing that right, finding out how you do that, those channel partners and the industry sectors is critical, but it's certainly doable, and it's growing. It's a growing market and opportunity.
Oh, that's fantastic. So I guess if you were advising a company in terms of a path or a good path to take, or best practice to begin exploring partnerships, what are the kind of key steps?
Some of the key steps are the industry events that are going on globally, as well as here in the United States. There's opportunities to connect with potential partners and kind of industry engagement, often through global events. They could be here in the United States, which are really the key ones for industry sector engagement. So if you happen to be in, say, the in advanced manufacturing sector, you might want to look at something like the IMTS trade show, or something like that, Fab Tech, or those types of sector shows are here, and they're very important, right? They're there for it's where the industry players gather. It's where you can get market intelligence. It's where you can get an understanding of how the market works in our country, and may be different than others. And of course, there's international trade shows where there's a lot of activity and recruitment going on and whatnot. And I think that's the challenge that companies, particularly small tech companies, have, is there's a lot of help, and there's a lot of questions out there of how do I locate or enter the U.S. market, and a lot of the channel development needs to be kind of market validation should be done first, right? It's a big market. We know we're good. It's a good place to compete, but what's your niche? What channel are you going to take to get into the U.S. market? And so market validation is really important. So attending those trade shows or those industry events, or sending somebody to check them out, and eventually maybe engaging them even further is a key thing. And as you know, Bill, that's something that happens a lot here in the U.S. We grind and grind and grind and do our business, and then we go to it's trade show season, and then it's an event season, and then you're grind and grind and grind, and then you go to the next one. There's generally 2, 3, maybe, if that, key events per sector that you have to kind of engage here in the U.S. And if you're there, then that's something that will be of value to you in figuring out, how am I going to enter this market? Because sometimes you're worried about things like where to locate and where are the best incentives, and those are important questions. But really, the question is who are you going to partner with? How does my product and service play in this market, and can this be successful?
So would you also, the events make total sense. Would you also do some research to find, or to identify the key primes that you should target, so that you also match going to the events that they're going to be at, or that the right division of that prime is going to be at?
Oh yeah, just showing up to the events is not enough, right? Like that's drinking from the fire hose and coming out with just being still thirsty, right? And so what happened, what we really want to work with clients is, when you engage those trade shows, is that initial intake and a strategic approach to that market intelligence, right? You have to have that, what is it that you need to know? Who do you need to know? and doing a lot of that research up front, and finding, who are those companies that are going to be there, and then starting to make those connections early.
Yeah.
Meeting, nowadays with LinkedIn and things of that nature, you can kind of figure out who might be there and why would there be a strategic objective for you to connect. And so, yeah, absolutely. Doing the market research, who are the players, who are the competitors, how are you fitting in with that? And again, a competitor doesn't necessarily mean the market's blocked. It actually proves the market, right? So it's actually something that I think companies also forget. It's a very big market here in the US, but we have a lot of players and a lot of innovators here already. So playing in this market is competitive, it's tough, and being strategic usually is a better way to go.
Yeah, well, it's funny you mentioned competitors, and at least our experience with in the defense sectors, it just seems like they're, today someone's a competitor, tomorrow they're a collaborator or a
Absolutely.
partner. And one of you is going to win the contract, but quite often there's some augmentation or support that's needed by others.
That's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point. We don't really want to look at the players in the market, maybe not define them right away as a competitor or a partner. There you find that something that, a company that might look like a competitor could actually be a complementary a joint venture. And so looking for similarities is also the case, and also maybe bringing something else to them.
Right.
Foreign companies coming from overseas are not usually abandoning their market and the work that they've done in their home countries and their home markets. So that's an advantage to U.S. companies as well, is to look at the fact that, I can work with this company in the U.S. market going after U.S. government contracts, but at the same time, there's foreign government contracts and foreign military sales and all these other things that also can help out. And having that on the ground and that, those partners globally, particularly as you mentioned in NATO and things of that nature, in those in those regions and those cooperation agreements are critical. So yeah, there's a lot of opportunity in that space, both ways.
So I'd love for our audience also to understand more about what you do. What does MDW Trade and Tech Advisors do?
Yeah, it's basically this. The primary core of it is focusing on the dual use sectors. So we provide global trade advice and consulting for dual use companies. How does that play out? It's typically in kind of three buckets. One is global trade for U.S. companies looking to grow overseas. We provide advisory services and some direct market research and project-based services to help companies identify potential distributors and partners, understand the markets that they're looking to grow into, and help address kind of build in capacity in their company on how to be a global player in that global sales market. That also comes into a core area, which is export controls compliance. So we do a lot of work with companies who are either domestically or internationally going to be working with the defense sector. Defense trade is a whole kind of area that needs to be kind of deal with compliance systems and operations within a company. So we have methodologies that really quickly get understanding of companies where they're at with their export controls compliance issues, and then we help address those gaps and put into some SOPs and projects. And then we also help companies kind of prepare to engage with the U.S. government for authorizations. So typically, if you need to get authorization from the U.S. government to do a foreign transaction or a sale or a partnership, there is a methodology to that. There's applications that have to be done. There's backup documentation that has to be collected and prepared for that dialogue with the U.S. government. And so we help companies kind of expedite that process, at least as much as you can on your side in preparation to go deal with the bureaucracy that takes for defense trade. And then the third area is this foreign side, right? This really helping U.S. The market entry for foreign tech companies looking to enter the U.S. market. So we typically focus on these dual use sectors. So it's, aerospace, defense, advanced materials, security technology, and things we call like emerging tech, even like quantum, and those types of really dynamic sectors. But they're emerging technologies, AI and artificial intelligence, that are starting to get a little bit more controlled and regulated for kind of the national security implications of sharing that information. So that's why we help those companies in particular from overseas looking for channel partners, because those are the areas that we're playing in. We're playing in the aerospace, defense, security, and advanced materials market, advanced manufacturing. So that's what we do, and it's been fun. It's a new company, but we're growing it from the ground up, and it's working really well. So yeah,
that's awesome. Well, thank you for taking the time today, Matthew. It's really been a pleasure. And is it okay if I share your contact details in the description below?
yes, please do.
I will, and thank you so much.
All right, thank you, Bill.